Technology is trying to solve many productivity-related problems. Factories are becoming automated, cars are driving themselves, and meals are pre-prepared. Even your social life can be matched by AI. It seems to solve many problems. But what we see is that people's sense of loneliness is actually getting stronger. Many features of the product you imagine don't align with what users actually care about. Users might care about something else entirely. To further develop a commercial product, we've made some subtractions. We believe there's a very important proposition in design, which is how to dispel the fear that an intelligent agent can give people and to establish a certain level of security and trust. AI companions will definitely be a category in the future, and a quite large one at that.
So it's non-highly functional AI. It doesn't solve problems, it just addresses emotions.
Right? So it's a shared memory. I think that's the most important point of companionship. We've put a lot of effort into the technology to create what we call EchoChain, a biomimetic memory system to carry this shared memory.
In other words, it just knows that our conversation right now is important. How I should change because of these conversations is entirely adjusted by the model itself.
But that's the right way to play it. The three most important points of this product are aesthetics, AI, and gameplay. We're mentally prepared today. We don't want to rely on telling AI stories to attract users to buy. Hello everyone. I'm Zhaozhi, the founder of Robo-Intelligence. I'm very happy to be here at Tencent Technology. Well, I've actually spent over 10 years in car design and another 3 years designing embodied AI robots. So starting in 2024, from an entrepreneurial perspective, we began working on the direction of AI companion hardware. Then our first product, the commercialized one, is called Fuzozo or Fuzai. This product is our first one for the public. It's what we call an AI nurturing style trendy toy. As you can see, it's a fluffy little thing shaped like a bag charm.
Okay, could you give us a brief introduction to Fuzai? Since it's so cute, what kind of functions does it have now?
Sure, as I just mentioned, it's a nurturing style trendy toy, meaning it can be raised. You can raise it like a pet. How? Well, first of all, the intimacy between you and it can be nurtured. Its reactions on the first day, first week, first month, and first year of meeting you are all different. Another thing is that its personality can be nurtured. We actually have 5 Zais. We've created a story based on the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Each one has different personality traits. It's like they have different MBTIs. And actually, you can also, through your daily interactions with it, influence its personality. My little one might start off as a very introverted one, but if I take it out often, meet new friends, after seeing more of the world, it can gradually change from an introverted one to a very extroverted one. That's possible, right? So that's how the nurturing works. And besides that, it's actually about how you interact with it. First, you can have natural conversations. Also, many friends, when they see it, their first instinct is to touch it. It has touch sensors and motion sensors.
Where are the touch-sensitive areas?
You'll find that if you touch its forehead or chin, it will respond accordingly. For example, right, touch its chin. Yeah, it reacts differently, right? And then you can observe that it has big, watery eyes, which are actually screens, circular screens. So its outward expression, one is through its eyes, which can express many emotions, and another is that it has its own language. We call it Mao talk. It has its own very cute language. Through nurturing, it can actually speak our human language, but you have to raise it well, right?
It's also a process of nurturing, unlocking this ability.
Yes. And if you play with it, in your hand, you can feel it actually vibrating, including when you put it on the table. It sometimes shakes its head because there's a vibration motor inside, right?
So what other sensor-related hardware does it have? Anything else?
It also has, for example, a gyroscope. So if you, say, accidentally drop it on the floor, or if you carry it and it shakes on you, it actually senses all of that. And different little ones, their reactions are different.
Their expressions are different too.
Yes.
Okay, so their language, you just mentioned through its Mao talk. Is this Mao talk universal for every little one? Or
every little one's language is different.
All different.
All different. Each one has its own catchphrase. We actually found different voice actors to record them. Each one has hundreds of sounds to express its different emotions. And some of these little expressive sounds.
Okay.
Right.
So it still has some expressiveness. It's not just like a...
It's a bit like a puppy. Right. In terms of its persona, it's like a little companion, a little friend. So if you talk about deep things, it might not understand. But based on its own personality traits, it will give feedback.
So what was the decision back then that made you feel inspired to develop and bring to life such a product?
My previous job was actually in embodied intelligence, working on robots. When we were making robots, then generally what people thought more about was when robots could enter factories to tighten screws, right? Or help with laundry and cooking at home. cleaning up, acting as a nanny. But as product managers and designers, we easily think that besides productivity value, robots have another very important value, which is emotional value. And the ceiling for emotional value is actually not low at all. I even have a judgment that robots will first explode in terms of emotional value.
So why did you decide to do this after leaving the Xiaopeng robot project? Was the entrepreneurial spark because you saw potential in this market?
Working on robots, I discovered a problem. Embodied intelligence has not been commercialized yet. The point I enjoy the most is being able to deliver a product with user value into the hands of users. After they use it, they tell me what's good and what's not, and then I iterate continuously. This is a very satisfying process for me. As for embodied intelligence, from our industry's perspective, it's still quite far from that stage. Anyone working in embodied intelligence, if they're honest enough, they won't say their commercialization path can be achieved within the next 3 to 5 years. Of course, I'm talking about the general purpose model category here. But embodied AI as a whole is a technology stack. Is it possible for some technologies to spill over and lead to new types of products? I think that's possible. I think many, including Tesla and us back at XPeng, we saw the humanoid form as the ultimate product form. I believe this line of thinking is correct. At this stage, if the technical path isn't clear yet, rushing into market or commercial product exploration is a waste of time. Right, I'll wait until the technology stabilizes before thinking about what products to build. I think that's the right approach.
But if the ultimate goal is a humanoid form, it might be... But in this space, what you're doing is combining current AI with hardware that has some mechanical functions. In itself, it's also it's actually a kind of small robot.
It is, by definition, right? From a hardware perspective, it's AI hardware, not embodied AI. And the barrier for this product isn't hardware. It's definitely on the AI side, right? The challenge is how to take today's existing emotional artificial intelligence applications and create a minimum viable set.
Create the most effective minimum set and put it in the most optimal container or the one best suited for expression.
Right.
Actually, before you, many companies were already exploring emotional value, like Japan's Lovot and others. But entering this market now, what exactly did you see, perhaps? Was there a missing opportunity or maybe something important or something?
The key variable we see is large models.
Large models.
Basically, in this track, you can divide products into pre-model and post-model. We're the first batch of post-model products. The product by the Japanese company Lovot was actually really very inspiring for me personally.
Right.
I went to Japan specifically to talk to them and observe the product. Japanese companies really have a talent for these very delicate experiences. When developing our product, we referenced many settings from nurturing style games, and that's a category the Japanese do best.
Right.
At the beginning of our research, we specifically studied 3 distinct groups: members of Generation Z, older adults or the elderly, and also children.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we discovered that those individuals who are most in need of emotional support are, in fact, members of Generation Z, Gen Z, who, as it turns out, are a group that many people might easily overlook. We read a research paper indicating that the loneliest times in a person's life, in terms of age, are actually after the age of 70, and also in one's 20s.
Right.
Gen Z, and especially Gen Z women, often experience intense anxiety and a sense of loneliness, and they generally lack good outlets for these feelings. The only 2 truly effective outlets we have noticed are, first, having pets, like cats, dogs, or other animals, which can offer comfort and companionship. Second is, if you are lucky enough to have a truly good best friend to talk to, that is something really special, but that's not something you can just find or create on demand. When I talk to users about specific topics, they often say that even though young people seem to have so many different ways to relieve loneliness, in reality, the moment when all the social noise finally fades away is exactly when the loneliness hits the hardest. So, that moment.
Why? Is it because social interactions today are all just, situationships? They're all too brief, right?
That's one reason. And also, you're just being bombarded with way too much information, right? Young people today are probably even lonelier than we were 10 or 20 years ago when we were young. The more advanced technology gets, the lonelier humans become. I think technology is trying to solve a lot of problems related to productivity. Like today, factories are slowly becoming automated, cars are going to drive themselves, and even meals are pre-made, right? And for people, even your social life can be matched by AI, which seems to solve a lot of problems. But what we're seeing is that, on the contrary, everyone's sense of loneliness actually gets stronger.
So in this era, the loneliness they're showing now, what kind of direction might this loneliness be leaning towards?
It's hard for people to build a deep emotional relationship and then be able to get enough friendly support. In these social interactions, everyone actually has to wear a very heavy mask, meaning they're constantly monitoring their own behavior patterns. But if the user is facing fuzai, the user will actually be very relaxed. They won't feel like, I still have to face social pressure. right? I won't pretend to be a certain character. I can completely open my heart. This kind of relationship is very much missing in today's society.
So this might also be what weak AI intelligence. Something like this might bring you a different kind of experience. The thing it can compensate for is right here, right?
Exactly. It really lets you let down a lot of burdens.
From initially thinking there was a market niche for AI companionship, to finally forming this specific presentation, what were the key thoughts during this process?
Yes, there were. Actually, you see, we made a conceptual product early on. It didn't look like this. It was something like a small desktop robot, right? And it was like a small embodied agent. Well, that product was actually a forward-looking product of our technological exploration. In the very beginning, we had a lot of fancy technical ideas. For that little thing, we implemented a multimodal model. It had vision, and it had 6 degrees of freedom. It was actually a small embodied agent. What did we achieve with it? We achieved real-time control of all its movements using the model.
So, do you think that was because there wasn't a specific target user or scenario, or was it that the final level of implementation didn't meet your satisfaction?
It wasn't precise enough. It wasn't precise enough. Because from our journey's perspective, we actually needed hardware early on to carry these technological explorations. At that time, we didn't actually know that much about the target users, and we didn't think that much about it, because in the beginning, we just wanted to target users, specifically the Gen Z female demographic, right? Then in between, we invited many users to experience our product and conducted in-depth interviews. Then you'd find that, actually, many points of the product you imagined weren't aligned with the user's points. Users might care about other things. So, if we were to further develop a commercial product, we inevitably had to do some subtraction. Right.
So it's still starting from the user, based on user needs, and then discovering that some functions were actually completely useless.
Let me give an example. Users, female users, actually care most about whether this little thing can truly understand me. When I need it, is it really willing to be by my side and give me some emotional support? As for how many degrees of freedom it has or what kind of movements it can do, people are interested in that too, but you have to realize that for these features, users might not be willing to pay the extra cost.
More degrees of freedom, more motors, it all adds to the cost. Right.
Yes, and sometimes if the price doubles, your user reach might change by an entire order of magnitude. Among user needs, there's an implicit one that's always there, cost. Users might not tell you what they're willing to pay for or not. They'll just say they want A, they want B, they want everything, right? But as a product manager, the core skill is actually making trade-offs. After talking to users early on, we found that being able to take the product out was something they considered important.
Oh,
So we put a lot of effort into making it light enough and small enough. And by doing that, I also had the goal of keeping the cost low enough so it could be a more accessible piece of AI hardware for a larger user base.
so back then, why did you think of using a bag charm format to design this product?
It was accidental. We were doing a user interview at the time, and we invited many young girls to come and see our product. Back then, we were still working on an earlier version of the product. Then we noticed, well, we already knew in our minds that users wanted it to be lighter, smaller, and portable. We just didn't know exactly where it fit in their lives. Then we saw that every girl who came had a little charm hanging on her bag, basically a little plush thing. Right, and we realized this is a great niche because it's inherently something with emotional value, and they'll definitely carry it with them. As long as it looks good, they'll take it out every day to all sorts of different places. So it just naturally fell into place.
Oh,
It was the result of observing users up close.
okay.
Yes, it followed a very important design principle, which is emotional design, especially when we're designing agents, because people are still somewhat uncertain about what AI can actually do. Nowadays, if you look at sci-fi movies about robots or even games and novels, they often define robots as characters that will eventually rebel, that they'll rise up and overthrow humanity. Deep down, people actually have a bit of fear towards robots. The word robot, in English, actually has a root meaning that refers to a slave. But of course, we in the East are naturally more friendly towards robots. You see, in many Japanese anime or literary works, robots are seen as powerful yet friendly characters. So we believe there's a very important proposition in design, which is how to dispel the fear that an agent or a robot can evoke and instead build a sense of safety and trust. So when we make a little companion for emotional support, it's definitely a more emotional design. Right, like what's your first impression when you see it, right? Creating that first impression, and then you immediately start thinking. You have to think about how to interact with it. For the entire interaction chain, we've designed various touch points. And then it gives you some feedback, right?
Which of your previous projects do you think has a core most similar to what you're doing now?
the most similar one, it would definitely be the robotics work at Xiaopeng, because I believe robots encompass that kind of product technology stack. They're sufficiently complex. So back then, when we were working on embodied intelligence, it was more about creating concept products, just like in the auto industry where we sometimes make concept cars, right? Nowadays, in embodied intelligence, almost everyone is making concept products. For instance, at Xiaopeng, we developed a humanoid robot. It was actually quite different from many humanoids on the market because we intentionally made it not look like a human, but more like a robot. Its head had a sort of flattened shape, and its overall body proportions were a bit shorter. Then its head was slightly larger, so the whole body proportion was a bit like Link, the protagonist from The Legend of Zelda. Right, he's that short elfin character. So naturally, you wouldn't feel such a strong sense of fear or intrusion from a product with those proportions and that form. So what's behind this philosophy? It's our thinking on how to shape the relationship between humans and robots.
From a product you perceive as non-threatening to one where you can truly establish an emotional connection, I feel there's actually still a gap that needs to be filled. And in the current design process for Fuzai, it's exactly about fulfilling that kind of process. What do you think is the most important element in this part?
Well, in terms of the overall industrial design, it serves a purpose to make the user, at first sight, really like it, find it cute, want to play with it, and even want to buy it. But ultimately, establishing that deep connection with the user, what we call an emotional bond, actually relies on the underlying AI technology and the nurturing gameplay it enables. So we believe the three most important aspects of this product are aesthetics, AI, and gameplay. Right, aesthetics addresses the question of whether I want to own it. It's how I sell the product, right? But whether the user continues to use it after purchase and continues to derive joy from it depends on the AI and the corresponding gameplay.
It's the same as this. Once you see such a fluffy thing at first,
You'll want to
touch it,
pet it.
pet his head.
Right, to see how it reacts. I started out in automotive interior design, and that's strongly related to human-machine interaction. Now, cars were originally purely mechanical interaction, steering wheels, gear shifts, knobs, buttons, until later they became largely electrified, right? And now we have large screens inside and the buttons are all gone. Then there's voice interaction and so on and so forth. And then moving on to robots, the entire interaction becomes even more complex, right? How robots interact with people, how they interact with the environment, and how they interact with other robots. So today, as we start making this product, our own assessment is that the interaction modalities between humans and products or machines will gradually enter a new modality. The previous stage was likely centered on GUI, with a bit of voice interaction on the side. In the next stage, we believe we'll enter a new era of natural interaction.
What's natural interaction? You and I are interacting naturally right now.
Okay.
I speak, I see your expression, and there might be some gestures.
It's basically three modalities: visual, auditory, plus some dynamics, and maybe even some tactile elements. Well, this product is the same. It has eyes to express its emotions. It has a voice link to express semantic content.
Right.
And touch, it also has a sense of touch. So essentially what this does is it creates a completely new kind of logic for natural interaction with other people, at least to some extent, you know.
Mainly by adding this, how should I put it, this physical modality of touch, it essentially enhances the whole interaction, making it feel more direct and natural, right? It's like, for example, talking to AI now. This generation is still just a chatbot where I can only chat with it. The next generation might be a digital human, adding a visual modality.
Yes.
But beyond that, you might have a truly concrete, touchable, physical modality.
Actually, from a sensor perspective, none of this is hard, but the core is the philosophy behind this product. We've built it to be like a digital life form, and we make it as biomimetic as possible rather than moving away from that. Even a young child who has never used a phone before can very naturally start interacting with it like this, just by touching or swiping the screen as if it comes naturally to them.
I see that in our current product. The most significant interaction point besides the petting, is actually the screen-based one, the eyes.
Too bright.
Yes.
Too bright, big eyes.
Right. Why make that a core interaction point? What was the design thinking behind that?
Actually, the whole design is very minimalist and simple. There are just two big, expressive eyes on a soft, fuzzy ball, and the original inspiration for these eyes is because I have a cat. It's really like a cat's eyes. If you look closely at them, we added a convex lens. Whether you look from the front or the side, it looks a lot like a cat's eye. It adds that bright, glossy look. Yeah, we felt that. This product is designed to be simple enough to really highlight its most core and essential feature, which is, of course, these two eyes. We wanted to make sure to keep this particular modality present in the visual presentation. The most obvious and noticeable part of that is the change that happens in the pupils. In this way, it achieves a high-end, premium aesthetic feel. Also, being simple enough leaves room for users to DIY and create their own style.
Because I have seen other products before, including some desktop ones that have a screen which displays things like images of milk teacups or even cola, I noticed that feature a few times, and patterns like that.
From the start, we were firmly against putting anything else on the eyes. Besides showing the eyes, we don't want any other functional stuff on that screen. It would definitely be far too distracting. If it is really going to be biomimetic, then it should absolutely be thorough. No status messages, notifications, or anything like that. Or maybe some pictures of objects.
Okay, so why is that? Is it because you feel that if it were like that, it wouldn't be able to communicate with people?
No way, you wouldn't see things like that in the eyes of a cat or a dog.
With an AI like this, if I want to talk to it, are there any limits on the questions I can ask?
There are limits. It has to stay in character. It's a baby, so it won't answer questions about things like quantum mechanics.
Right, so how did you decide on those limits and where to draw the line?
The core logic is that we truly believe it's a little living being. What should a real, truly living thing actually be like? And on the other hand, what are the qualities or characteristics that it really should not have? Our core logic follows that exact line of thinking. For example, we consider what shows in its eyes, what it should say, and how it should react if I touch it, or if I accidentally drop it on the floor. In as many details as possible, I tried to highlight what we call its sense of aliveness. Right, it's not a device. It's not a piece of equipment. It's a little life. We want to emphasize that feeling. We've experimented a lot with this kind of nurturing gameplay, drawing inspiration from the earliest one, Tamagotchi, which we mentioned earlier. It's about nurturing, and its mechanics are actually quite simple, but it's very effective. We also looked at later examples, like the settings in nurturing-style games such as Travel Frog, Neko Atsume, and even Animal Crossing.
Could you please elaborate on which of those settings you referenced? What do you see as the fundamental elements that create that sense of nurturing?
Well, we can look at it fundamentally. We want to build a relationship similar to the one between a person and their pet. So, how is that intimacy between humans and pets developed? We believe there are 3 key points. First, raising a pet requires a constant investment of time, energy, and even money, right? And you see your pet grow. If you care for it well, it thrives. If not, it doesn't. That's the logic of investment and positive feedback. Many nurturing games actually follow this same logic. And the second point is that for intelligent pets like cats and dogs, after you've had them for a while, they actually start to understand you better. They change their behavior patterns, and you feel like you've raised something unique, a pet that is truly yours. This is crucial for building a bond. It understands you, you change for it, and it changes for you. Then, an emotional connection is formed between the two. And the third point, a pet often isn't just yours. It's also your family's and your friend's pet. It's actually a social hub for you. Right, it's present in many different scenarios. It's a member of the family, and you'll talk about it often, which also strengthens your emotional bond with it. So to summarize, it's about continuous investment and feedback. Then there's the mutual adaptation. And finally, its role as a social hub. So these 3 underlying logics will actually find that many nurturing games have applied them. They've applied them. Then, can I apply this gameplay to an AI hardware device? We found that, hey, it actually works.
For example, we just mentioned that between you and it, there'll be
nurturing of a favorability level. This is actually a favorability task system we designed for it. Every day, this little furball, it'll tell you what it wants to do today. Like, can you help me do this or that? So you don't have to struggle to think about how to communicate with it today.
How to effectively communicate with it?
Ah, right. It has its own ideas, yeah. Then you can selectively complete these so-called tasks in its system. Because in this way, the little furball that each person raises, its preferences will also be different. Your behavior essentially determines, for example, which way its personality develops. Ah, right. But choosing different tasks can actually achieve similar goals, meaning I'll become more and more intimate with it. We also have a social feature, which uses NFC, and then, for example, when your furball meets mine, they can just tap each other to become friends. Once they're friends, we'll be able to see its friend list on our app. Of course, it's not your friend list, it's your furball's friends, its social circle. It can see what its friends are up to today, and there are some small interactions and so on.
This is actually a bit like when you go downstairs to walk your dog, right? And maybe a friend's dog is there, so the dogs become friends first. Then behind that, it's actually social interaction between people.
Right, yeah, okay.
What do you think is the essence of companionship itself? To successfully achieve this sense of effective companionship, in your opinion, what core elements might be involved?
That's a very deep question. Personally, I think that companionship, in the true sense, it must have a so-called shared memory, which is a shared history. Of course, its appearance and so on are all bonuses. But ultimately, imagine if we raise a cat or a dog. What is it that we ultimately can't let go of? It's what we've experienced with it over all these years. It's always been by my side, and It's no longer just the cat I first met. It's the one that's lived with me for all these years. Even if it's just quietly, calmly staying right by my side at times, just being there with me, that is all effective. So it's a shared memory. I think that's the most important point of companionship. Then technologically, we also put a lot of effort into creating such a, what we call echo chain, a bionic memory system like this to carry this shared memory. Ultimately, I think for all users, if they use our product long term, what they can't let go of is actually this part.
Right. You mentioned that this is mainly possible through the development of AI large models and the AI platform and the kind of possible memory it brings and the value of its emotional interaction with you. So in the process of building this model you just mentioned, including Echo Chain or including its own personality growth and updates, how exactly are these things implemented within the underlying model?
Simply put, it's actually an emotional agent. It's actually calling different models, or rather calling different functions. To realize this companionship chain, let me explain the interaction chain. When I say something to it, after that sentence comes in, first I'll use the model to determine your semantics and your intent, performing intent understanding. It extracts your emotional state from this. Then time and space info, the memory model, and finally all context enters a prompt manager, then combined with its persona and so on, it's fed to an interaction model. Its output isn't just a sentence, it also includes code to control some of its behaviors and some of its expressions.
Oh, so its expressions and behaviors are also through this. The whole thing comes out of the chain.
Exactly. For example, if I tell it, I say, you look a bit stupid today, it'll be sad. That's the model's output.
So that's probably semantic too, meaning it first has a sense of what emotion my current performance should be, and then it chooses specific code to implement it, right?
Yes. But if you say the same thing, it might get angry. Not.
It's just so really sad.
Personalities.
Oh, so this is written in their system prompt, right?
It'll first judge my personality, then what kind of reply I should give you. The reply will branch into a vocal reply, and some expression and action replies.
Okay, so this is actually a relatively long chain involving a joint retrieval, a function call, then taking these specific memories of yours and your current environment, including some physical information. It might retrieve all of these, and then it performs a reaction. So about how much latency does this thing have?
You actually experienced it just now, about 2 seconds. For 2 seconds, because we added long-term memory, which takes a few hundred milliseconds. So reaching 2 seconds is almost the limit.
Oh, so long-term memory actually takes up a fairly large part.
Yes, because the model inside needs to think.
Hey, so do we just give it everything without filtering for specific cases, like some situations where you don't need memory and some where you don't need memory?
This is also left to the model to decide.
It's all left to the model. Everything is left to the model.
Yes. Okay, and besides this chain, which is a real-time interaction chain, besides this chain, as I just mentioned, there's also reflection. Reflection works like this. All the memories it records every day, this so-called memory stream, item by item, each has tags, several tags like timestamps, importance, and so on. Then once this so-called importance accumulates to a certain level, it triggers a reflection. And our model actually has a quite forward-looking feature, which is that it has the ability to reflect. Every night when it's quiet, it's pondering all these things I experienced today. What do they mean? What higher level insights can I extract and summarize from them? For instance, how can it build a profile of you? Like, what's your personality, what you like or dislike? What's bothering you lately, right? What could be the reason you're unhappy today? It actually gains this through reflection because the answer might not be directly in what you said to it. So this part is very much like the logic of fast and slow thinking we discussed before. Yes, this is its slow thinking part.
Oh, so it doesn't necessarily reflect every single day, but it needs to have enough important information, and then after it's passed on, it reflects on it. But what it reflects on is what it uses to change its entire...
Self-questioning and answering. What to ask and what to answer is all determined by the model.
Oh, well.
Right, yeah.
Oh, so it just knows that our conversation right now is quite important.
Yes.
And how I should change because of this talk is entirely adjusted by the model itself.
Yes.
Then won't it have some really strange changes?
It will. So we have to test it for a long time and see if the results are good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but this is the correct way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
When we first built this architecture, we considered using as few rules as possible and as much of the model as possible. The better the model, the better the product experience.
So less structure and let it rely entirely on the model's capabilities. In that case, it might become more and more convenient when hot swapping to a new model.
Exactly.
It's a final thing because the logic of judgment is the same.
Right, the better the model's performance, the better the experience. Personality development means it needs to know everything I've experienced throughout the day. To what extent it can influence the evolution of my personality is a very complex question. It actually also calls upon the model to solve this problem. If it were a rule-based setting, you'd find it's just like a game's numerical system. You complete task A, and it gains 1 point in that direction. That kind of rule system we believe cannot provide users with a sufficiently nuanced experience. So we still use the model's capabilities to make the judgment.
Oh, so it's not a fixed set of rules.
It's not a fixed set of rules. It's the model judging everything that happened today, assuming I'm a person and I've experienced these things, how might my personality evolve? Right, and then a tiny change occurs. Then, over time, you'll find that its personality has changed.
Oh, so all of this is decided by the model, right?
It's not a rule-based design.
Yeah.
That's why I said our model's call volume is several or even 10 times that of our competitors. Right, because many of the underlying judgments are made by the model.
With the current base model's capability, can it really complete such a process of personality-oriented simulation?
It's just barely able to, just barely. If we were 6 months or a year earlier, the model simply wouldn't have been able to do it. So doing this at this point in time is just right. It only really made sense after DeepSeek came out. Before that, it would have been much harder.
Is the one you're using now a model with a chain of thought or without one?
A model with a chain of thought. For the part that requires strong reasoning, we use this chain of thought model.
So for our current model, these modules, including memory, memory cognition, and the recovery system, are they all fine-tuned?
We have fine-tuned the model. Yes, we have.
Then what is the approximate source of the basic data for this model's fine-tuning?
Our own data, conversational data. We didn't use raw user data. Generally, we use simulated data pairs for this.
It's all just dialogue.
Dialogue-type data.
But is it mainly limited to the emotional and affective part, or are there other aspects?
It's dialogue data that closely matches our users' actual usage scenarios.
Oh, for example?
For instance, when you wake up in the morning or when it lulls you to sleep at night. Or say, a social setting for venting. Some of those more emo situations are actually very niche. They're tailored specifically to our users' scenarios. Right.
We've actually talked to some startups before. At the very beginning, sometimes they would try to fine-tune the model, but they might find that the fine-tuning isn't even as good as just adding a prompt, because during fine-tuning, uncontrollable situations can easily arise, causing the model's own capabilities.
Right. If fine-tuning goes wrong, it affects other performance.
Right. So in our case, do we have a special method for this?
First, you need experts to do this. Also, we have some clever workarounds. For our product, we're not actually training a completely omniscient AI. This AI, the persona it follows is a little guy, right? And there are many complex questions that it simply isn't meant to think about. So this is a clever workaround. I've strengthened its conversational abilities in scenarios of emotional support and companionship. But to some extent, I don't need it to maintain a very, very high level of conversational ability in omniscient fields. That's its advantage. It's like a piece of cowhide. I'm taking this part. Whether other parts are good or bad doesn't matter to me. We built an emotional agent in the cloud. First of all, our model runs in the cloud. And the user's long-term memory with it is also stored in the cloud. Then our agent is actually calling different models to solve different problems. We've created a system of long-term memory in the truest sense. That is, its memory can be stored permanently. In theory, I could raise this little guy today and treat it like a family heirloom. I could pass it down to my grandson. And by then, through talking to it, my grandson, even if the hardware has changed, the digital life inside is still the same. My grandson can talk to it and learn about a specific date and the relationship it had with his grandfather. Yes, it can be preserved to that extent. And if you look closely at current so-called AI companionship software products, there are really only two things they can actually charge for. One is conversation duration, and the second is long-term memory. So for users, the willingness to pay for long-term memory is very high. Of course, we've made a bionic
record that saves down to the specific year, month, and day, like that, right?
Right. Because it writes in a diary every day. It has a little feature where it writes a diary entry daily, and you can check it through the app. It has a very clear perception of the timeline.
Have you considered that it might have another function, like a portable diary? Because we're usually too lazy to keep a diary, but it can...
Exactly. Actually, its so-called diary writing is writing for you, right? Because it's recording your life, and later will launch a feature that users have been asking for, where it creates a profile of its owner, an overall profile. Because it's already doing this in the background, we'll just display it on the front end in the app, showing what kind of image you have in their minds. Then, as your interactions with it increase, this image will gradually evolve, gradually becoming richer. In the end, it might even have written a biography for you, right?
What it remembers every day, including its cognitive abstractions, to what level of abstraction does it actually reach?
Right, that's a great question. As for what should or shouldn't be remembered, we actually leave that decision to the model. And the logic the model uses is that it's acting as your emotional companion. It uses that as a benchmark to make those judgments. Now, we don't store any of the user's original raw conversation data. It's discarded immediately after use. We feed it to the model, let it determine what the summary of it looks like, and then it's gone.
That feature sounds a lot like what OpenAI did. Earlier this year, they launched a memory feature. Often it also looks for your preferences within the conversation and records them. The base model itself might also remember some information about your emotions or your current state. So in that case, for this model, we're training separately. Could it eventually just be integrated directly without needing a separate memory mode?
Well, all the general solutions provided by the big model companies, well, it's still necessary. We've built an entire memory system specifically for this companionship scenario. Model companies or general solution providers offer schemes that are as versatile as possible across all scenarios. So, within a specific context, our solution will actually have an advantage.
If the base model keeps getting stronger in the future, what direction do you think the resulting experience upgrades will take?
Actually, the base model provides the underlying reasoning capability. We use that reasoning to build a very nuanced and rich agent that has its own distinct personality. Every aspect of its evolution is driven by the model's underlying reasoning. So, as the reasoning power of the base model increases, it will inherently cause the product experience to gradually improve as well.
You've actually defined this product as a piece of AI designer tech.
That's right.
So do you feel that this product leans more towards companionship or more towards the designer tech factor?
Well, first of all, it's definitely a crossover of sorts. Right now, we haven't fully defined what it is yet. It's something entirely new. If I had to pick a term, we'd call it an AI partner. It's a new category. AI partners will definitely be a major category in the future, a very significant one.
So, non-utilitarian AI, that's the logic.
Exactly. Just imagine all the sci-fi movies, games, or novels we've seen. There's always that little robot character, like a little sidekick, right? It might not be incredibly useful, maybe just a little bit, right? But after the movie ends, the best-selling merchandise is always that character, right? We believe that in the future, even if robots don't enter every household or fill every corner of the world, this will still be a very powerful category. Almost everyone will want at least one of these.
It's not about solving problems, it's about fulfilling our emotional needs.
Right? Whether you call it a toy, a pet, or designer tech, I don't think it's important. What matters is that in the future, it'll be that kind of landscape. And today, we're actually heading towards that landscape.
So for you, the greatest value this thing provides, including in your current product design, you also see it as companionship, right?
Yes, right.
So to some extent, you think future robots, whether they're companion robots, they might actually be a very broad spectrum that can accommodate many products. Is that the case?
Definitely, definitely. And it doesn't have to be humanoid, right?
What else is there that could make them different?
Because it's a product purely for emotional value, so it follows the logic of to each their own. If it was something for productivity value, there might be a single solution and a winner-take-all landscape could emerge. But for emotional value products, I think it's ultimately a fragmented market. There will be many companies with different styles, different brands, and they can all survive. We see that all hardware products for emotional scenarios are in very fragmented markets.
It's like character AI, which to some extent isn't utilitarian either. It's also for emotions, yes, but its emotional targets are also layered, right?
Right, I think it's a fundamental human need.
A fundamental need that's completely different from others, right?
The app-based products you mentioned, as we see it now, most of them eventually lead to a kind of romantic relationship.
Or more like a quasi-interpersonal relationship, or at least that's the feeling.
But we believe that between humans and agents, there are clearly other relationships that can be established and exist, like something more like a pet or a role of mutual spiritual support.
Right? So the two most popular types of videos on social media are videos of beautiful women and videos of cats, right?
Oh, right.
These are two different needs, right? It's not like I'll stop watching cats just because I watch beautiful women, right?
Right.
I think that's reasonable.
I absolutely agree.
If I'm making a first-generation product, then the AI part and the design part, which one is more important for a product?
For this generation of products, I think design is more important. Many of our users, when they see this product, they tell us directly, I'd buy this even without AI, right? A cute, fluffy bag charm that blinks its eyes. At this price, they're already sold. From a sales logic perspective, appearance plays a decisive role.
True, because we've seen some toys before that are just well-designed toys with an LED screen. They might not even have AI functionality. Those toys actually sell quite well too.
We're mentally prepared today, meaning we shouldn't rely on telling an AI story to attract users to buy. We make the product itself attractive enough in many ways. Then, once users start using it, the subtle influence of AI might slowly begin. Startups making AI hardware must have this realization. It's hard to attract users just by telling an AI story. Today, look at all the companies making so-called AI glasses, right? Actually, Xiaomi's AI glasses are really hot right now. But essentially, they're just selling a filming and photo feature. First-person perspective photos, right? That's what people want. From a user's perspective, I'm looking at what kind of value it can provide me, right?
But the value of AI is very hard to understand, isn't it? Or at least before you have a deep experience with it, it's very hard to grasp,
Yeah.
especially since it's emotional companionship, not just a tool. Utility is actually easier to understand.
Right.
So the first step is just to get it sold first.
Get users to start using it, right?
Use the appearance to grab the users first.
Exactly.
It's just that AI can make the experience of emotional value last longer and be more self-contained.
Right, obviously AI has huge potential here and we're willing to keep investing in it. My suggestion is don't have overly high expectations for AI's current appeal to users. Just like when cars first started with autonomous driving, don't expect that so-called smart driving will be the main draw for a user's purchase decision to be high enough. When users buy cars, it's still about price, looks, brand, comfort, and things like that. But once users start using your car, if the autonomous driving works well, they'll gradually get the point.
Even things like large screens, I think it's the same logic. In the beginning, when smart screens first came out, many drivers thought, why do I need this? I can't see it while driving, right? But after using it for a while, you just can't go back. That's indeed a very good product philosophy, especially for a first-generation product, a breakthrough kind of product. Earlier, Mr. Zhu Xiaohu also invested in our product, and I heard he decided to invest within 10 minutes. So, which point was it that really made him make that decision? What was it that touched him?
I think Mr. Zhu Xiaohu first decided that this direction was good. Then he started looking for a team for this. After finding us and talking, he wanted to hear my understanding of the product, including what our core selling points are, what we simplified, what we kept, and why. After talking, he felt that your ideas are very similar to mine, and maybe even more detailed than what I had in mind, right? So at that stage, it's really just about two things. One is the overall direction of the startup, and the other is the team. See if these people are reliable. Okay, then invest. The decision was very fast.
That's why people feel this year is a potential explosion point for this track.
I think this is closely related to a certain event, which is the explosion of DeepSeek at the end of last year. For a long time last year, when we talked about letting users make friends with an AI agent, many people didn't believe it. They felt the model's capability wasn't there yet. And then, DeepSeek at least made many investment firms realize, hey, the model has reached this stage. It can do this now. Of course, there are other reasons too. For example, last year, PopMart's stock price hadn't risen that much yet, right? At that time, people were more skeptical about so-called emotional value. That's related.
So your product, because it's also, one is that it has this AI companionship capability, and the other is that its form is very similar to designer toys, right? So you think it might stand out more in this wave, right?
Right. It's like everyone generally knows that the direction of AI companion hardware could be a winner. But as for what the product form actually is in this direction, everyone has their own take, and no one has really found a great answer yet. Then, after we released this product in March, it was like providing an answer that many people found quite satisfying. You can tell from how people are behaving, because a lot of people are copying us. In the past, everyone was exploring on their own. But after we launched, suddenly, all at once, there were many copycat products, so this form probably makes the most sense.
There's a product that's very similar to our approach, a product from Japan called Moflin. I feel its overall concept is very similar to what we have now. It also involves aspects of growth, and it covers things like emotion recognition and care, right? Its entire logic, including memory, actually has that module too.
We have some users who actually own Moflin, and they'll bring it in and tell us what they like and what they don't like about it. Actually, in terms of the whole memory and nurturing system, including the richness of its interaction with you, we've already completely surpassed Moflin. Plus, our cost is way cheaper, like a fraction of theirs. Once our product form came out, people actually started to realize, oh, everyone's ideas on this will gradually converge.
True, so now it depends on
whether you, as a consumer hardware product, can be an all-rounder in every aspect. Making consumer hardware is all about the bucket theory. You can't have any weak links. Right.
So for an AI companion product, what would you say those key aspects are?
Well, first you have aesthetics, product design, gameplay, then the underlying tech, your supply chain management, brand narrative. Everything has to be top-notch.
For our current product, the supply chain for this kind of AI product, is it in a relatively mature state right now?
Actually, the supply chain for these products is quite mature. Nowadays, you can find what are basically off-the-shelf solutions, but those aren't as good as ours. They mostly just handle very basic dialogue. It's just a dialogue, box stuffed inside a plush toy. Those dialogue boxes are in Huaqiangbei are so cheap now, maybe 20 or 30 yuan each. They're being made at cost. But with that kind of product solution, it's very hard to achieve a refined experience, how its emotions sort of shift, how its personality evolves, and all the interactions, whether the large model can track those interactions, have long-term memory, and so on. That's the hard part. So we see that in this field today, there are basically two types of players. One type just picks an off-the-shelf solution, and the other is like us. We've actually chosen a much harder path with our own proprietary model and long-term memory. And for our entire hardware, to achieve the state we want, there's simply no way to use any existing ready-made solutions. Ultimately, we believe these users are experience sensitive. They don't really care about an extra 100 or two. They want something good.
Brand narrative. For our part, what's the general idea we have right now?
Branding isn't a short-term thing, it takes time. We're going to tell everyone the stories of the little furries from Planet Furry, representing the 5 elements. We're going to build an entire story system, a whole world view. And at the same time, very few similar products have offline experience stores from the very beginning. In July, we'll have 3 offline experience stores in Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, because this product really needs to be handled to actually experience it, and then have our staff explain the many ways to play with this product to build up this brand narrative bit by bit.
So your current price point is set at 399. What was your thinking back then when you decided on this pricing plan?
Actually, this price is quite aggressive. We believe that among our target users, whether they're students or people who just started working, this price is basically stress-free, and it doesn't leave much room for competitors. Right. From another perspective, our core competitiveness lies in the model, and continuous optimization needs data. So we must get as many users as possible to start using it. We have dozens of beta users now, and their usage behavior is very heavy. Our daily per capita token usage is basically, among all the AI products I know, the highest, regardless of software or hardware. It shows our users spend hours a day using it, which is a great sign.
Since there's a charge for the hardware, and subsequent services will continue to consume tokens and inference costs. So for the, say, pricing for maintaining the software's functions, how are we considering that part now?
As for software services, that will definitely be a paid item, but we haven't announced the price yet because we need to rely on the beta testing process to calculate the cost and finally set a reasonable price. But the overall pricing logic, you see, we sell the hardware quite cheaply, and the software fees will also follow our style, which is an affordable price for everyone. And at the same time, users can actually play with this product without spending money, meaning there's still a free daily experience quota, essentially. If you want to spend money, there are places to do so. You can spend money. Right, for example, look at its accessories. There are doll clothes, then hanging chains, and actually some value-added paid items on the software side. It's actually like a game with quite a few monetization points inside. We have 3 profit points. First, I definitely make a profit from selling hardware. The second is, as mentioned, the whole accessory system, which many users are very interested in. After buying this little guy, they'll definitely get these accessories for it. And we'll release some official items. Some of these official accessories will even have functions, because we have NFC and other ways to play. And then thirdly, if we do a good job with software services, users will keep paying as long as they find it worthwhile.
Mr. Su, that's all for today, and thank you all so much for joining our show. Let's have a good chat.